Okay, you guys, I made my Modigliani, Lautrec, and Van Gogh Blue series has about 40 or 50 artists that had different types of suffering and pain, and then I make a work of art to represent each of these artists in a way that I feel inspired. And this piece is called CLAUDEL'S FRANCESCA. I have Modigliani's Francesca, Van Gogh's Francesca, Picasso's Francesca, and this is a work that I did this week. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it because it has to do with ME CFS. This is watercolor paper that I attached everything to here. And then this is a decorative, a really, really pretty orange and red decorative paper. Okay. And then I had found this a couple years ago, this black and white grid plastic thing, which I went ahead and sliced and stuck under there. And then I had a face mask, and this is actual real leather. I think it's calf leather, and it's Robert Cavalli, and it is a leopard print, so you can see it. And what I did was I glued little tiny weird mirrors behind the eyes and put a tiny pupil in the eyes, and I glued and suctioned the leather over the mask. And then I painted her lips and her little bit of makeup. But because I'm an artist, I always think of expressing things even when I felt trapped and I couldn't get there. And this is my little light, light, I guess that's what you call it. I lose my words in English, I'm sorry. When you turn on the light or turn off the light, table lamp light, but there's no light on because, you know, with our illness, that's what happens. And when they had diagnosed me originally with frontal lobe disinhibition syndrome and all these mental illnesses and that these things I was making up and blah, 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 these bizarre symptoms, they kept saying, well, then afterwards they said, well, you have stroke damage, so what you need is caffeine. So they kept telling me to pump cappuccino and Coca-Cola and just keep pumping it until I could make my brain work. But as the illness got worse, I have a little tiny beetle up here. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a crab, and then there's another crab over here, and then there's a little ladybug for a beauty mark. And what I also have, and I don't know how well you can see it, is this, it's a clear wire. Let's see if I can get up close enough to show you guys. It's a clip right here. Can you see? Yeah, I don't know that you can see it, but it's a clip, and it's kind of like the identity of who I was and this mask that I wore and how it appeared that I was beautiful and okay. But inside I felt very disturbed, hung on this little wheel. There's a little tiny wheel up there. Let's see, it's going to be hard to get everything on there, but yeah, there's the wheel, and there's that, hold on, I'm doing this in reverse. Here's the string that went to the clips. Then the other thing I did was I took a leather string, and I'm going to read you the different words that I wrote. Over here it says, feel crazy, memory gone, exhausted, help me, infections, ME CFS, brain fog, hurt, medicine, drug. And then the work is not finished. Here's a little tiny window with a bunch of Coca-Cola cans and a little tiny watch and a ladder onto this window. And then below on the ladder, let's see if I can get over here and let's see it better. Somebody's coming up the stairs. We'll wait till they pass. They think I'm crazy because I talk to myself. I leave my door open. Anyway, this is the window, and there's a little bucket, and in the bucket is a scroll of knowledge. And here's the Coca-Cola cans and a watch with the time, and then a second little fence right here. Now, what I foresee myself doing, let me see if I can find it, you guys. Oh, I put it in my purse. I wrote a letter to the doctors angry at everything they said about my illness, and I'm going to get it printed on clear plastic transparency and then impose it here so you can read my letter on a diagonal of how I feel about what these doctors did to me, and then stating that the FDA upgraded our illness this past week. And then afterwards I will figure out how I want to attach this window, because this was how our research has been going very half-assed, nothing much happening. That scroll is the knowledge that the doctors have, and they're using a very archaic way of trying to get this pail up this ladder, up this window, crossing over on a small gate to help us, which is ridiculous. And we now find out that the American government or the CDC was involved in this financial fraud to rob us. We should really sue their ass. Anyway, so I have to put the words on here and attach this on here, and then this is her piece. Now, let's see, we'll go up. Camille Claudel was Rodin's lover, mistress. She was this fantastic sculptress. She just could sculpt, and she was a student under him. They were madly in love, but he couldn't seem to keep his thing in his pants, and he had to continue to screw all of his models, which drove her crazy because they really did have a quality love story. Sounds a little bit like Carlo. Anyway, he ended up putting her in a place for her to pursue her work. And every time this guy goes around my door and he sees my door open, he's got to peek in. It's just, yeah, there. I just said it. Did it again. It's got to peek in. He's dying to know what the hell's happening in here. Anyway, she ended up living in these really bad conditions. Her father believed in her. He paid for all of her sculpting, and she used art as her means of doing these beautiful sculptures. But then when her father died, her mother and her brother didn't want to spend the money on her. And she started to get some type of mental illness. But, you know, again, here's the issue. They were calling all of my things mental illness until I got my SPECT brain scan, and they couldn't even find unipolar, which is the flatline depression, let alone bipolar, let alone schizophrenic or obsessive compulsive or borderline. They couldn't find any blood flow patterns in my head that demonstrated. They saw a hyperactivity and a little bit of compulsive or anxiousness, nervous, anxious in the front, but I do have complex PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, so, you know, that supports that diagnosis. But then they were saying it was frontal lobe disinhibition syndrome because the strokes I had done permanent damage for my behavior and these bizarre symptoms. And then the doctor said, well, Francesca, the brain scan doesn't even show that. But what I do see is this low-grade fuzz all over the place. And with this low-grade fuzz in your symptoms, it's CFS. And I'm like, what the hell are you telling me? That was January 13th, 2011, so about a year and a half ago. And that's when I just grabbed, I lost my life for 9 or 10 years to this illness and other illnesses. So she was locked up, Claudel, for the rest of her life for 30 years. Her mother and her bastardly mother and brother locked her up for life. And who the hell knows really what illness this woman had, just like so many people in mental institutions and people with, not epilepsy, I'm thinking of autism. You know, a lot of times they're neurological viruses. So this work is my way of trying to communicate how bizarre we can feel and the symptoms. So I hope you guys like it, and it'll be one of all my pieces. I'm going to have ultimately about 40 or 50 pieces. I think right now I had done 10 in the States, and I think I've maybe done about 5 here, so that's 15. So I've got 35 more to go. But I'm working on them. This is the first week that, in addition to the sculpture for the Columbine shooting, a rock wood sculpture that I'm working on, I've got this. And then yesterday I started painting because I finally got the house under control. Not perfect, but enough. And I don't have money to pay for a house cleaner, but I'm going to get one again because I just can't do it all. All right. Well, I hope you like my my art. Bye. Ciao.